Creepy Weasel, arguably one of the greatest nicknames I've ever heard, along with probably the greatest mullet I've seen since Miguel Torres.
And Steve Montgomery says that his strengths are his heart, his technique, his cardio, and his mullet.
There's a nice combination. Right hook, left hand behind it again. Short punches by Montgomery.
Holy smoke! What a finish! The Creepy Weasel turning the lights out.
Your winner by knockout, Steve the Creepy Weasel Montgomery.
Welcome back to the Weasel's Tail Creepcast. Back inside your head again. But I'm not going to torture you that bad tonight. I'm exhausted. I just got back from my friend's house, the painter and carpenter I think I told you guys about on the first Creepcast. The guys that rip off the work clothes right after they're done at work like Clark Kent and turn into Superman. One of them's like the ultimate party host. The carpenter, Mark, he's the just unbelievable drummer, rock star, truly a rock star. And went to their house to watch the Super Bowl. It was a ton of fun. The game was insane. I mean, you all saw it, I'm sure. Patriots just went down swinging. It's kind of delusional to think it, but it is Tom Brady. I was thinking, oh my God, they really are gonna like make something happen in this last minute. They got that first down on 4th and 10. It was 4th and 10. They're on their own 1 yard line, and they throw that first down, and then got a little momentum going. But then they got it, stomped out of them. Crazy that some of the plays in that game. I'm definitely not a big football guy, but it's like I know enough to know that like the flea flicker that the Eagles hit right before halftime, or I think that's what it's called, that crazy play they did to get that touchdown, unbelievable. That's why if you don't watch football or you're not a big football person, you still watch the national championship game, you still watch the Super Bowl, you watch the playoffs. Now they got the playoffs in college football. Those are the games you watch. Those are where the teams just let it all hang out and let it ride. Those are the brawls, Not that they're fighting, but, the good games. So, yeah, I'm exhausted. I'm not going to torture you guys. Later on, my dad, the Warmeister, is going to come on here and torture you guys for me. I'm kidding. He's going to tell you all about, or a little bit, I guess you could say, about his journey through martial arts, how it's helped him turn his life around for the better. So we're going to have him on in a little bit. It's going to be our first official guest. I figured what better way to kick it off than having my dad as the first guest. It only makes sense. And I think you'll find some of the stories pretty interesting. Says his first ever athletic venture was straight into JiuJitsu, kickboxing, things like that. And speaking of other guests, I'm also one day, like I said, my carpenter and painter, who I went and watched the Super Bowl at their house. My carpenter, he's a world-class drummer. He tours with this guy, Yngwie Malmsteen, and he has his own band called Sweet Blood, and just really, really, he's dialed into the music community, and he's played huge shows in front of, over 20,000 people. He's done world tours, national tours, and just when I get to talk to this guy, like tonight, it's always awesome catching up with him. He just has the coolest stories from on the road in his band, and not to mention he is a world-class carpenter too. I mean, I can't wait to get him on here. He's going to be one of the future guests that I get in the very near future. And as I said on the second Creepcast, if y'all listen to it, I got a lot of good guests planned. Anyway, it's just been a crazy weekend. Trying to write on this book, trying to get it just a phone call meeting with the guy I'm writing it for, Mark Tullis. And then last night, my neighbor, who's become a good friend of mine, he had a birthday party, and it was all 80s themed. So I walked 2 doors down and opened the door, and here he is in like this blonde mullet. He's got this cheetah spandex shirt over like a cheetah one-piece spandex suit. Not cheetah, I'm sorry. It was black one-piece suit from like legs all the way to his wrists, just tights. And then he's got a cheetah print suit over that, and then like pink 80s workout shorts like up thigh highs, or up to his groin pretty much. He's got those shorts over the tights, and then he's got the huge mullet. They had a DJ there. It's all 80s music. There's mullets everywhere, and made me miss my mullet. I'm not going to lie. I teared up. I poured out a little liquor for the mullet. I did what I had to do. But I haven't been drinking, though. Too much training. That's the thing that's insane. It's supposed to be the weekend. You're supposed to be chilling, but, training over at ATT Wellington at Sharks Gym and trained. Oh, God, I've just been running all over the place. A lot of training, a lot of teaching. Jumped in with Mako's wrestling kids today. It's a bunch of high schoolers and some of the older kids there wrestling. Get just extra credit wrestling. When they're not wrestling at school, they're there getting better. These kids are college hopefuls, and the kid that I ended up drilling with, he's a beast. And I'm not lying to you about these stats. He's 16 years old. He's got to be close to 6'4". He's close to my height, and he's 295 pounds. I think he told me he's like 44-2 is his record, and he's wrestling other kids in a 285-pound weight class. Kid's a monster, and he put the weight on me today. I definitely felt it, but he was a beast and a good training partner. So I'm really, really tired. I had to go to all these parties and watch everybody else party, which was still entertaining nonetheless, because I'm going to try to win this ADCC expert division next week, going for the gold. And, what else do I have to talk about? Oh, yeah, those fights last night. I was so busy this weekend doing jiu-jitsu and wrestling. I didn't even watch the jiu-jitsu and wrestling they had on TV. I did watch a friend of mine, Thiago Maheta, fight, and that was awesome. I think he got the $50,000 bonus. If you guys didn't watch it, it was a really back-and-forth fight. Him and, what's the guy's name? I always forget his name, and he is a stud. I'm an idiot. God, you know what? I'm sitting here brain farting. I'm going to look it up. I'm going to do it. Sorry, you're stuck listening to me type through going to SureDog. What's the guy? Anthony Smith. That's what it was. Thiago Maheta fought Anthony Smith. And, man, he rocked him with an elbow early in the round as he took an elbow. They were getting in some crazy exchanges. Like, not even a minute in, Thiago throws a spinning back kick, clips Anthony Smith like right across the face, and then somehow, I haven't watched it yet, but he kind of like came in a little too fast and Anthony Smith ended up in mount. Then Thiago reversed him, landed heavy ground and pound. Then they had some other crazy exchanges on the feet, and then he put a nice cap on it. He landed a hard body kick, and it was kind of like the toe of his foot, but I felt Thiago's foot. He's got a hard toe, and it went right across Anthony's liver, and man, sat him down. Done. $50K in the bank, so congrats to Thiago. And the only other fight that I actually got to watch was that Valentina Shevchenko fight. And wow, that was like Khabib status. The ground and pound was vicious, and that was just. It was hard to watch. She beat that girl up bad. It's sad. I don't even know the girl she fought. I don't know that girl's name. But man, she earned her keep. She fought her ass off and she stayed in there. These chicks are. I'm not trying to pander to women or be a feminist or anything, but it really is. I think that chicks are just naturally tougher because of the whole birth process. I think they are designed to take more pain. I think that's sometimes why you see less knockouts. This is my own theory, by the way, but you see less knockouts in women's MMA overall. Is you got chicks that are tougher, can take more shots and take more pain, and they're not as powerful. They're on a smaller frame, so you got them delivering less power, and they can take more damage. So you get a lot of times you get these wars, but in the case of Valentina Shevchenko fight, man, she just dominated that girl, and that girl kept scrambling. She fought her ass off, but ultimately that was too much. I know Dana was mad at Mario Yamasaki saying it was a late stoppage and this and that, but I don't know if Mario went and talked to the girls before the fight, but I've had referees come to me before my fights and kind of insinuate like, hey dude, how much do you want to let me take, or how much do you want me to let you take out there as far as damage, and they don't say it that bluntly, but they put it in their own words, and I tell them every time, dude, like, let it ride. Let it ride till I'm done. And that chick was still fighting. I mean, she might not have been defending herself well, and they stopped it when they did. Or did she submit her? See, people, now, this is how tired I was yesterday. I'm so tired right now. I almost didn't get on here, but then y'all wouldn't get this blessing of a Creepcast. Hold on. Let me look up. I know she either TKO'd her or subbed her late. Oh, where is it? Oh, you're not going to tell me right now. Sorry, people. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, she choked her. That's right. I knew it was a choke. No, I didn't. That's why I had to look it up. But yeah, she rear naked choked her. So that's the point. Right there, that actually proves my point. It wasn't a late stoppage because the chick was still fighting to the point where she had to be choked before she would quit. So, especially when it's a big fight like that against a big name like Valentina, you let that fight ride. These chicks are tough. It is what it is. Let it go. Anyway, let me go ahead and get to some of these sponsors before we bring our guest, the Warmeister, on. First one, as always, Garden of Life, empowering extraordinary health. GardenofLife.com is where you can find all their products, but obviously you can get them in a vitamin shop, a GNC, any health food store, Whole Foods, grocery stores, everywhere. They're showing up everywhere, and they got great products, and I'm not going to lie, I did so much wrestling this week. Just wrestling, leg locks, gi jiu-jitsu, no gi jiu-jitsu. Probably, I don't even know how many rolls. At least 4 hours worth of live rolling, or at least situational rolling this week. And I loaded up on the Garden of Life MCT oil, which is like the coconut oil that's more specified for brain function, but it's really good for joints. And I actually have a huge tub of Garden of Life coconut oil too, and I tank that stuff all the time. I think that's the only thing keeping my joints lubed right now. So anyway, long story short, Garden of Life, thank you for helping my body. If you people want to go and help your body, gardenoflife.com. Find out everything you need to know. Our next sponsor is Pure Spectrum CBD. They've got the most pure CBD out there. It's phenomenal. I've had a lot of the tincture the drops, and it's great. The lotion, like if I ever have, whether it's acne or something on my face, I go scrub out whatever it is in the shower and it's all red. You got the red bumps. I'll put some of the CBD cream on my face after washing my face. Obviously, you don't want to clog your pores or whatever. Sound like a chick. This is like a chick's podcast. All of a sudden, Creepcast, whatever. So yeah, after you clean your face, you put the CBD cream on there, and the next day, I mean, the redness is gone. You might still have a little bump there, but the redness is gone. I mean, it really does wonders for the skin from the products I've tried, and they've got a lot of other stuff that I'm looking forward to trying. So definitely check out PureSpectrumCBD.com and if anything you buy, use the promo code TheCreepyWeasel. Once again, TheCreepyWeasel, and you'll get 15% off your purchase. And how can you argue with that? That's 15% off. If you buy $100 worth of stuff, that's $15. They'll just give it back to you. You can get if you drive a Prius like me, you can get close to a full tank of gas with $15. Anyway, on to our last but not least sponsor. We are dapperties.com. And by the way, before I forget, if you use the promo code CREEPY, that's just creepy, not the creepy weasel, just creepy, you'll get free shipping on all your orders. And these guys have really cool ties. What else can you say about them? They're not expensive. And they really are just nice, interesting designs. Very modern, but then again, they have some very classic designs as well. I never wear suits, but you know what? I'm thinking one day, maybe for the Pan Ams in March when I go out to California, just have my gi on and everything and just have a sick We Are Dapper tie, like a custom Creepy Weasel Dapper tie on, and then just pull it off or just rip it off and start growling at my opponent. I don't know. That's cheesy. I probably won't do that, but I still will tell you to go to wearedapperties.com. And they gave me an ad to read, and I told you guys last week I'll always do it in some terrible accent or attempt at an accent. And since Philadelphia won the Super Bowl tonight, and I guess according to all the football fans I know, that means that Philadelphia is going to burn. And knowing all my friends from Philadelphia, that kind of makes sense. So I'm going to try to read it in a Philadelphia accent. Let's get to it.
Yeah, We Are Dapper Ties is a company created by brothers Andrew and Julian, okay? They believe that feeling and looking great should be affordable for everybody. So, whether you're rocking the suit or tie daily, heading to your first interview, looking for, classy for a date, or you just like to look good, you need a dapper tie. Andrew and Julian have carefully curated beautiful designs to offer you a selection of knitted, elegant, unique, and keyword affordable ties. Go to We Are Dapper Ties and enter the promo code CREEPY. That's right. We're talking about creepy, staring over your fence at night, all that stuff. Creepy. That's the promo code, and get yourself some free shipping on all orders inside the United States of America. The great United States of America, where the Patriots go down. Brady gets embarrassed by the Eagles. The great Flying Eagles is making a comeback, okay, son? That's Philadelphia. I gotta go flip some cars and burn it down, and I'll tell you right now, I'm gonna have a tie on from wearedapperties.com. All right. So there we go. Philadelphia fans are happy. The city is burning, and so is Tom Brady's. What would that have been, like 6th or 7th Super Bowl ring? I don't know. Either way, let's go ahead and get our guest on. Give me 1 second. I'm going to have to pause this while we get everything hooked up for him, and we'll be right back with our guest, the Warmeister. All right, let's go ahead and bring our guest on. Warren, a.k.a. Warmeister Montgomery, the 65-year-old jiu-jitsu phenom. How you doing, Warmeister?
Doing well, thank you.
Nice. So, there's a lot we got to talk about. Obviously, the first thing we should probably disclose is we're father and son, and usually it's the father who gets the son involved in something. But we kind of had the opposite thing happen where I started, and getting involved in martial arts, and you slowly followed my footsteps and probably are more into gi and no gi jiu-jitsu than I am. How did that begin? What really piqued your interest enough to start training?
Well, I've always, of course, enjoyed watching your journey through the mixed martial arts, and of course, I didn't understand a whole lot about it to begin with. But as I watched, it got more exciting. And because of the fact that you were in mixed martial arts, I started watching the UFC and Bellator. And, of course, you had a couple of chances to be on some programs, a program for Bellator. And then you were on the Ultimate Fighter when you were fighting at welterweight. And I guess that's probably when I really got into it along and along. And, of course, as I got closer to getting more time in at work, I decided to go ahead and retire so that I would have time to travel and have time to visit you. And so I retired, of course. It's been, I guess, 2 years.
Yeah.
And
all this available time. It's you retire from what was it, an 8:30 to 5 o'clock every day, and now you've got all this time and this gap sitting there. And then I remember you guys were coming to visit me a lot, and my MMA career was picking up, and you start showing up, getting involved. Obviously, everyone at the gym loved you, and you started talking to these guys. And I think, what was it, Dad? 2013 or 14, I think I started holding pads for you. And obviously, you started really critiquing fights. You became a fan who was interested in more than just, oh, that was a big knockout. You actually were like, okay, what's happening here? And I think this just replaced your job as far as time. I swear, at least 6 hours out of the day, if you're not training, you're usually doing something pertaining to training. I mean, you're at the chiropractor fixing your back from jiu-jitsu and then going and studying jiu-jitsu or looking up, hey, where should I get this gi online, studying tournaments. And we should tell everybody, too, you just went with some of your teammates from Swamp Fox Jiu-Jitsu up to the IBJJF Atlanta Open. So there you go. Jiu-Jitsu's your full-time job now.
Well, it's so much fun. The exercise is so good for me. And, of course, I lost some weight, which was good.
Yeah. 20 pounds, was it?
Right, at 20 pounds. And now I probably stay at about, 159 to 160. And it's helped my hemoglobin A1C. People may not know I'm a type 1. I'm a type 1 diabetic and have been since 1964, but I use an insulin pump, and I also now have a new continuous glucose monitoring system. So what I normally do now, since I'm doing jiu-jitsu, and my doctors love it, they said that's really a good thing for you to do. So what I do now,
working that hard out. Continue.
What I do now is, if I'm training at jiu-jitsu, I will put my insulin pump on a low basal rate, depending on what my blood sugar is, and put my basal rate fairly low, and then wear a protective pouch, put my insulin pump in one pouch, and the new sensor that I have has a little small screen thing, and
you got the whole setup. Plus, you're not even talking yourself up enough. You got usually some type of nice rash guard on to show your roll, or a Swamp Fox rash guard, ATT rash guard. You always rock out with some nice shorts or a legit gi. You always come in there looking pretty swagged out. And this is one thing that, Warmeister, my dad, call him Warmeister. Let's make it official. This is one thing or a couple things he's not going to tell you, is he never really played sports. I mean, I know you played football, like throwing it around, but officially getting out on the field, you never played sports. What was so incredible to me and obviously Mom and everyone that knew you was your increased range of motion. I think this is the most athletic, honestly, I've ever seen you. And the other thing that's crazy, too, that people won't know, and that you probably wouldn't tell them, is you have a really high tolerance for pain. Since you were 12 years old, I know you were a type 1 diabetic. You've been used to that traumatic, I got to have needles in me, or I've got to get this surgery. I mean, I've never once seen you flinch at the doctor's office, things like that. And I think you take that to another level, because there will be people, at Swamp Fox or at ATT training, and they're pushing themselves to their limits, and even though they might be younger and they can train harder, they're quitting. They're getting tired. They're breaking. And you're over here in the corner busting your ass, breaking 3 times and continuing to go, and you won't quit until someone tells you to stop. So I think if anything that you have, it makes Warmeister an even better name, is you have a really iron will, almost a stubborn will, and you're tough. So that, and I'll tell people in a second about the first roll I saw where I knew you were ready to compete. But I think when you start competing, that's going to be your first really good weapon, is just your toughness and grit.
Well, I do know that there are places where I'm weak, and I just got to keep practicing and keep rolling and keep getting the help from all the great people at Swamp Fox Jiu-Jitsu. If you don't mind, I would like to put in a good plug.
Please do.
They are a great Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym in Florence, South Carolina. They are a great environment. All of the people, the
kids, women,
the men, the women, the kids, they will help you in any way that they can. And it's just so much fun to do jiu-jitsu.
And that's what, hey, absolutely. That's why I sent you to them. I sent you, I've known these guys, to put my little plug in, I've known these guys for years. You know, Cliff, one of the founding members since I was 17, he gave me guidance when I was first getting into martial arts, just kind of man guidance. So they're always good people. So I sent you there when I needed someone to take care, not even take care of you, but to introduce you properly into jiu-jitsu without getting you hurt, considering that you were 64 at the time, first athletic venture. But continue on with what you were saying about how they're willing to help anybody in the instruction.
They're just so good. They have great classes, gi classes, no gi classes, kids classes, self-defense classes for women. Last Friday, I guess it was, I went to the in-house tournament for women, and man, the women at Swamp Fox, they are true warriors, and it's just so much fun to watch jiu-jitsu. Now that I know a little bit more about it, even though I still don't understand some of the names of some of the moves, and I may not do it exactly right, I try hard, and I will continue to try hard.
Exactly. That grit, that Warmeister grit.
And just like yesterday at the Atlanta Open, we had 4 people competing, and they've been competing a lot longer than I have. And everybody went out on their shield.
Yeah. And Chris McDonald got gold. I mean,
right. Chris McDonald got gold.
He's always putting in the extra hours. I see him doing, privates on the side and always working, pushing his kids. His kids are studs.
They both do well. And
all homegrown. Right, just before I forget, I hate to interrupt you, but the one thing I do really love about, the guys at Swamp Fox is they're a homegrown team. I mean, they've trained with high-level guys. They have guys come in and do seminars. They're not one of these gyms that's like, oh, you don't train with us, then, or if you compete against us, you won't train with us. They're not like that at all. But when it comes down to really their true source of doing well, it's homegrown. They're doing it themselves. They're doing the research. They're putting the time in on the mats. They're putting the hours. I mean, you see Chris, in there all the time doing work, whether it's with, I think, doesn't he do some work with Lakin? I've seen his boys doing work with her. And then you've got him doing work with Bobby, and I'm sure he gets in work with Cliff and Brian and those guys. They're all putting in the time on the mat. But anyway, continue about the Atlanta Open.
Right, and the only other thing I would say is the people that teach there are so good. They'll work with you and help you. And just like I've started going to Tuesday and Thursday morning gi classes taught by a great guy, Matt Mizzledine, and his son also does jiu-jitsu at 5 o'clock in the morning. And nice. I've always been an early
Yeah, you're an early bird for sure. I'm starting to get that way too. I'm finding myself up at 6 and looking for coffee.
But it's just a great environment there.
No, it really is. And I never forget when they really first started. I left, Florence to come down to Florida. I mean, I've always loved Florence. I love coming back home, but I had to go because the martial arts down here, the scene was so big, and it obviously still is. But I remember at the time I left, to put it into perspective, I had to drive, either 30 minutes to Turveyville to train with Alan at his school up there, or I had to drive, 15, 20 minutes through the country to get to the fight farm and try to scramble together people that would make an even further drive to train. And at the same time, MMA completely, amateur or pro, was illegal in South Carolina. So you had to go up to North Carolina to fight. And, it was just fun. And then on the weekends, you remember me and Eric would drive 2-3 hours to wherever, whether it was we drove to North Carolina to train with a group of guys, or we drive to Georgia, or we drive to another part of South Carolina, Myrtle Beach, or we drive to Charleston, or even the time we went down to ATT. So we were driving to get our training, and obviously I had to leave. And then a couple years after I leave, I see Cliff and Brian and, all the guys at Swamp Fox coming together, and Will and all those guys. I'm leaving out a lot of names. Training hard, doing, traditional jiu-jitsu and working with good guys. And then eventually they had the school on Palmetto. And now they're downtown, for those of you who don't know, right off 5 Points next to the Krispy Kreme. You can't miss them. And they're doing some awesome things over there. They're competing, and that's the important thing.
Well, it's so much fun to learn it.
What's your favorite move? What's your favorite move? Maybe something you're good at. Anything. It could even be a guard pass, whatever.
Well, I can't really say I've gotten really good at anything.
What's something you're at least familiar with?
Well, the Americana, I'm a little bit familiar with.
Yeah, you always do lock up. The Americana, for those of you who don't know, if you know what a Kimura is, where the wrist is facing towards their hip, the Americana is the opposite. Some people call it the top wrist lock in catch wrestling, and it's a real bad manipulation on the rotator cuff, that part of the shoulder, and you hit that on me. I remember a couple times you and me drill to do guard pass to side control. You're always hitting those Americanas, so. Yeah, I believe it. And I do have to ramble and tell this one story. I think people will like to hear it. And I've told it before, the one about, I think it was over Thanksgiving. I was watching you roll. So for those of you who don't know, I was back home in Carolinas over Thanksgiving, visiting them, watching them train. And they had a good group of guys on the mat at Swamp Fox that night. And Warmeister over here is rolling with this guy. And the guy I think he's in his mid-20s. He's super young. And he's he kind of only has one gear. He doesn't know how to roll slow and roll accordingly. Like I can roll with a 65. I could roll with an 80-year-old woman and make it look good and not hurt her at all. He has no clue how to do that. He just goes hard. And he's not, no bad intentions, but he's going hard with you. And he locks up a triangle on Warmeister, locks up this triangle choke and just starts squeezing, pulling the head down. And for those of you who don't know, you got your arm across the neck. He's pinching both sides of your nerves together, so you got no blood going to your brain. So, your head, Warmeister's head is turning red as a cherry. And I'm freaking out. I'm kind of walking over there and yelling like, hey, Dad, you see you're in a triangle. I'm kind of saying like either someone chill out or Dad, you need to tap. And then instead of just tapping, you start stacking into him, getting your head right above his head and pushing his own hips into him. And you start defending the triangle the right way. So, I started yelling at you to what to do. And I don't know whether you were listening or not, but you fought your way out of the triangle, out of a really tight triangle. And ultimately, he had to switch to an arm bar from the triangle because his legs broke open. And when he did get you with the armbar, you didn't tap like you were scared or unfamiliar with it. You didn't go like, tap, 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 tap. No, you went like frustrated, like you knew exactly where you made the mistake. You just went tap. And I remember seeing, even though you lost that roll, that was the roll. I said, if he can go that hard in the worst case scenario with a 25-year-old, young up-and-comer, then he's ready to compete. So, this year, I'm glad you went to the Atlanta Open. When you come down next week to watch my little tournament, we're gonna do some research and we're gonna find out the right tournament to put you in and get you several rolls. You never want to just do one; get 2 or 3 in at the very least.
Well, I do. I'm really enjoying it, and the one place where I know that I'm weak and I just got to keep working at it is I try to be aggressive, but sometimes what I'm doing is I may leave my arms at somewhere where someone can get some sort of arm bar.
Yeah, you keep your elbows too flared.
And so I've got to work on that, and then try to work a little bit more on my flexibility. But even so, I really enjoy learning the jiu-jitsu and promoting Swamp Fox Jiu-Jitsu because they've really helped me. This is getting into jiu-jitsu, and people may think I sound weird.
No, at all.
If I don't have jiu-jitsu, or I'm not able to go to jiu-jitsu for a day, or for some reason, I feel like I've missed something because I have so much fun trying to learn things and being around the guys who are there, and it's hard to explain.
You hear that, people? He's got the bug. He's got the addiction, and that is a real addiction. There is I would sound like an idiot describing it, but there's scientific, research into the fact that when you keep learning, even if you're 70, 80, 65, doesn't matter, if you keep learning and growing and you keep making yourself a white belt, your brain keeps active. You're keeping yourself active and you're interested in something and you're releasing all this, I think it's called oxytocin, which is the chemical that actually makes you happy. So you're releasing all these good chemicals that have positive reactions with your brain, and you're literally, it's like a flower. If the flower doesn't have if it's not going to grow flowers again, then it's just going to start to die. But if it's still got buds that it wants to open and make pretty, the plant will keep on living. So I think you've just found the addiction again. You found your inner child again when you're in there, because you were having fun like a kid in there.
And I'll just say the funny thing is, probably I may do too much Facebook, but I went to a high school reunion. It wasn't my class, but there were several classes, and this has been probably it was during football season. And people who knew me knew that I'd been doing jiu-jitsu and, and would say, Warmeister. And,
yep. You can't help that Warmeister's got fans. That's not your fault.
Well, that's okay. And the only other thing I want to say, because I really enjoyed this, and I hope Conan Silveria is listening. One time, when I came to visit you, after I had just kind of gotten started with jiu-jitsu, he came up behind me and tapped me on the shoulder and said, "I'm so glad that you're getting into jiu-jitsu. That's great."
Nice.
So
that's the type of thing when you have people like that, like a Conan or anybody, just someone who's way above you and someone you look up to in that community, and they tell you you're on the right track. There's nothing more encouraging than that.
Right. And of course, it helps me, even though I still am, may not know the names of some of the moves. Watching MMA fights now is a lot more interesting,
I bet.
Especially when they're, trying to do the jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Well, let's not lie here. You're a pretty good southpaw on the feet too. I mean, you definitely do jiu-jitsu more than the kickboxing, but Swamp Fox, when they have their 2 striking classes a week, you're there. When you're down here, you're on mitts at least 5-6 times at the very least, and you've got a pretty solid left cross. But it's the same, it's funny, there's a lot of similarities in all the martial arts, and the only problem that you really have in the boxing is sometimes your elbows are too flared out, just like in the jiu-jitsu. You do your fair share of stand-up, enough to at least understand that one guy needs to work his angles more as opposed to coming straight in or leaving straight out with his head up, because we definitely work your angles.
Well, I've just got to get better, and I'm like I say, I just enjoy it so much, and I hope I'm getting better, because I do want to compete this year, even though I'm sure I'll be nervous as a cat. I can tell you this, all you people that are listening, and Swamp Fox, I will give it my all, and I will go out on my shield if necessary, but I hope that I can do well and have some fun in my first tournament.
That is real talk from the Warmeister. That is the way to do it. You go out there, you put it on the line, and you either come out with the hand raised or on the shield. Real quick before we go, I got to tell one just interesting thing to put things into perspective, people, that I think you'll laugh at too. There was my, obviously you guys have always been supportive as far as what sports I'm into. I mean, you're not going to necessarily you were never a fan of pro soccer or pro surfing, but you watched me play soccer and surf, that kind of thing. And I'll never forget when it was the night that I had senior prom and I went and fought instead. So it was like my second amateur fight. And you and Mom drove up to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and it was the first time I had gotten a finish in a fight. I took him down, got into his guard, he couldn't get up, and I finished him with punches. And it was pretty clear towards the end when I finished him that, what was happening. It's a guy on top of another guy throwing repetitive punches, and he's given up. Ref pulls me off, and I jumped on the cage, and I'm doing all that stuff, and it's just obvious I won. And because you didn't know anything about MMA, you're going, I remember Mom, you could hear her in the camera. She's going, "Did he win?" did he win? And you're like, I mean, I think so. I guess he did. It looks like he won to me. And y'all didn't really know anything about it. And then 10 years later, because that would have been 2009. Well, not 10 years later. So in 2016. So 8 years later. Or no, I'm being stupid. 7 years later. The fight that I had in Florence at the Civic Center, you were behind the camera. And it was a whole different tone. You're in a suit, dressed like Conor McGregor. And you're obviously walking around like being the man, like, yeah, my son's main event, all that. And during the fight, you're like, you knew what was going on. I threw the knee to his body, and he's a leg lock guy, and he fell looking for my leg. And you're like, he's baiting him. You're sitting there commentating everything that's going on. Watch out, keep your range. Oh, look, he's clenching him. He's baiting him to go to the ground. Like you were. It was night and day over a 7-year period or so. Actually, it would have been closer to 8 because the other one in 09 was at the beginning of the year, and that was at the end of 17. So about 8 years later, you had done a complete U-turn on your martial arts career. And then even after that, that's when you started losing after that fight, you lost the 20 pounds, got into jiu-jitsu, and just been consistent ever since. So I think everybody out there, who, whether you're, in your 20s and you want to get active in something, or whether you're in your 80s and want to get active in something, you can hear the benefits that my dad, Warren Montgomery, has had from it. This podcast really only scratches the surface on all that it's done for him. I'll let you close out with something, Mr. Warmeister.
Well, I just want to thank you and also everybody that's been supportive. And also, I'll say this, shout out to Advantage Health and Wellness chiropractors, because they're the ones that I found out about the change of lifestyle diet, and that's what did it.
Yeah, I've never seen you cook healthy food before. It's impressive. I mean, you've never been a big guy to cook, and the fact you're cooking healthy stuff, and like I said, people, we'll have him back on for more podcasts, or Creepcast. Never call it a podcast. It's a Creepcast. We'll have him back on for more to talk more in depth about certain things he did, because he did lose 20 pounds. And if you people could see the before and after, as far as his range of motion, his athleticism, his cardio, his energy level, his mood, everything is just, it's going up, and I couldn't be happier for him. So it was awesome to have you on as my first official guest, Dad. I don't think that anybody else would be more deserving. And I'll see you next weekend, and yeah, we're going to get you ready to compete.
That sounds great.
Talk to you soon.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The Warmeister, the first official guest on the Creepcast. And I don't think we could have found a better fitting guest. He's really made his life just so much better. I mean, not only has his change been physical, but it's been a personal change for him. He's finally found something that's really just made him happy, and something where he can focus on himself instead of always focusing on, helping other people. He's finally getting to be a little selfish for once. And, man, it's just awesome to see it. As I said at the beginning of our conversation, it's kind of been the opposite, whereas instead of him getting me into something that he used to love and then him being proud of me, it's the opposite. He got into my sport, and I'm proud to see the changes he's made. So it was awesome having him on here. And man, just one more thing to touch on is how consistent he is. I don't think we went over exactly his exact training schedule. He's doing, 2 sessions a day, sometimes just one, but when he does just one, he'll go and do a yoga at his house. He's always doing something to work on his jiu-jitsu. He really is. So he inspires me to get in the gym and quit skipping sessions. So because we had a guest and it took so much time up, I'm going to save all the emails for the What Would Creepy Do segment and the Legit or Shit segment for next week. We got a couple of funny ones on there that are a little nuts. No pun intended. So we'll get to those emails next week. We'll have a new story time next week. I'm going to keep these stories super interesting. I promise you, I have some really, really crazy ones, and we'll try to figure out which ones we can put out there. So thanks for tuning in, guys. This is the Weasel's Tale Creepcast, episode 3, over and out.